Hey guys, welcome to another commentary done by Diggity. Up right in the corner we got LancerX, I should say, starting as the pink Protoss. Bottom right in the corner we got Kik0, starting as the red Terran. This time we're going to be on Polestar, which is a reference to Polaris and the Little Dipper. I was actually thinking about this the other day, and kind of an odd artifact of being on a planet that's tilted the way it is, where it's, what is it, like a 23-degree tilt that we got, is depending on where you're at on the planet. Well, clearly where you're at on the planet, you end up seeing different stars, but where you're at on the planet aligns the Little Dipper kind of differently in the sky a little bit, right? Is that right? Like if you move more to like the south, it's going to be like, for example, if you're at the South Pole, you're not going to see the Little Dipper at all. You're not going to be able to see Polaris and whatnot. My curiosity is then where on the map? Is it straight on the equator where it looks like it's just on the horizon and is constantly like dipping in and out of the horizon? And I also wonder what sort of influence that might have had on various cultures, because you kind of, when you see that like right on the horizon, I'm wondering if Egypt had that, which is why maybe they were so into the stars, because maybe you had the zodiac just effectively with the position going straight overhead. Be kind of neat. Kind of, I actually wonder, so you know there's different ways to tell time. One of the telling time like calendars, there's different ways to base your calendars. You can base it on the sun, you can base it on the moon, you can also do what's called sidereal time, which is what the astronauts use, and that's basically using the stars. And I always thought it would be kind of, we should go back to using the moon. And I say that because it's when you can just look up at the sky and see the moon and know what day of the month that is, it just feels like, or day of the week even, it feels like that would be advantageous in society, especially because we're not, like, you really need the solar calendar, I think, if you're more of an agrarian society is my understanding. So we're not all farmers anymore, so maybe it'd be more advantageous to be able to just tell what time of the month it is, just looking up and say, yep, it's a Tuesday and the third day of the, anyway, I digress. These are Diggity thoughts for you at the beginning here. Cybernetics core about halfway finished, so we got a, rather than a fast expand, Kik0 gonna get first scout as well. We have the gateway, cybernetics core, and a simulator. Lancer has not queued up a zealot, instead going for the pylon in the space of this to be able to get that extra probe out. Not gonna be able to deny scout. Factory constructing, I think this is gonna be a little bit more of a standard game between these two, just the way this is shaping up. Single SCV on gas. A second Marine is queued. For a second there I was like, is that gonna get queued or not? But Kik0 going to be in a little bit more advantageous position in the early game here, where he's going to be able to get a lot of scouting information, deny a lot of scouting information. And what Lancer, I wonder if Lancer's going to play with his game, with his food a little bit here, though, mess with Kiko's head. And yeah, he's not queuing up range. Wants to create a little bit of doubt. And as soon as the SCV exit, is he going to queue up range, or is he going to go straight to robotics? Is he just going to go one Dragoon into expand? Looks like it's just going to be one Dragoon into expand. The SCV might have an opportunity to press its way back and get that information. Marines have made their way to the south. The probe took a lick of damage, but has exited since. Vulture queued up as well. SCV just kind of holding right here, and I think Kik0 missed an opportunity right there to get a huge eyeful of information, because that single Dragoon wouldn't have been able to stop that. So it's still going to be a fairly aggressive economic opening. Now we got range queued up here from Kik0, and right now Kik0, oh, never mind. Start. Oh no! Wah! Oh no. Okay, so starport dropping 12 o'clock. Vulture making its way out on the map. Lancer was still looking for that SCV, but since he peeked out to the 12 o'clock, this lets you know he wasn't map hacking. He's going to be so mad at himself if he loses this and looks at the replay. Anyway, second gateway, plop down. These three Marines should be plenty to deal with the Dragoon by the by. Mines, are we going to see a siege tank in the space of this? Vulture is actually able to get all the way across, by the way, and see the Nexus. 4 Marines chasing down that Dragoon. Kik0 could be in a spot of trouble if the Dragoons opt to get aggressive. The Vulture is waiting. It looks like rather than going up and contesting the natural right this second, it's just going to go ahead and fold back out. Kind of an awkward situation where the Vulture, is it just going to be a single Vulture drop as well? More Vultures queued up. This is very, very dangerous for Kik0. Part of the problem with doing something like this is, especially without a bunker on the front, is if these 3 Dragoons just attack move to your natural expansion once range is complete, that is potentially it. But right now it looks like Lancer is playing a lot more defensively. No mines out as of yet. Mines have been upgraded. An SCV cycling back in is able to get some additional scouting information. A few mines being plopped down to try to box those Dragoons in. Is that mine? That mine's going to connect on 2 of those Dragoons at the very least. And 4 Marines coming up as well. Is this going to be 4 Marine, 2 Vulture drop? That will be really interesting. I don't know how effective it'll be, but it'll be interesting. Lancer trying to do some Bisu micro right there, not able to do so. He's got to be confused by these Marines sitting outside his front door. No dropship queued up though. Oddly, or sorry, there is a dropship, but it's moving out towards the north. What Kik0's showing has got to be so confusing to Lancer. Kik0 doing a really good job of macroing, by the way, in the midst of this. He's actually ahead in the worker count, waiting on Vulture speed. Now the drop moving in. 2 Vultures plopping down. I don't feel like this drop is going to be super effective though. The Dragoons are right there. So I guess the Marines were trying to draw the Dragoons back. Shield battery was dropped in the space of this because Lancer was thinking, oh man, am I going to get factory rushed again? But now that that dropship's been revealed, I feel like that was ineffectual because you revealed you had a dropship by plopping it there. That was a quick swat. And now you can see Lancer's already responding by getting units in position to deal with the drop that might sneak in from the opposite direction. Mine's cleared, by the way, on the front. Yeah. Already prepared for this. Already has a pylon blockaded as well. So all that happens for Kik0 here is a spot of scouting information. Looks like he will get 2 probes, which is something. But Lancer has been somewhat halted economically. He's down a lot of workers. He's a little bit slow to along the build order. However, we only have 2 siege tanks down at the natural. We have no mines between point A and point B. And siege check isn't finished as well. That's kind of the other aspect of the dropship, and it looks like LancerX on the hunt to go ahead and find that that starport. Kik0 having it skedaddle. Actually, now that I look at it, it kind of looks like a battlecruiser. Like a battlecruiser's just shoved into that thing, and this is like a transformer. Maybe that's what it is. It's just like a makeshift battlecruiser error thing. Anyway, observer making its way across. I think, honestly, if I saw this from LancerX, I would definitely debate going for more aggression. The Nexus going to drop there at the 12 o'clock base. The starport trying to float back around. We don't have any information on it as far as LancerX side. Kik0 starting to clutter the front. Hasn't gotten a lot of use out of that dropship, otherwise is sitting on 3 factories here in the mid game. Mostly because usually you want to be at, this is where you want to have the 5 factory count, but potentially cut into to get +1 weapons, and because of the starport a little bit earlier. But Lancer now making his way across the map. With the clutter now on the front, might have some trouble, and he's actually, because of everything that's happened economically up to this stage, is hurting a little bit as far as the raw supply count. Usually you'd want to be higher up in the supply count from here, but usually that's also at the higher siege tank count. Vulture's making their way back across. Lancer has not moved these Dragoons off the front this entire time. So the Vulture's peeking and going to draw right back. Is this still okay? It looks like we are seeing more siege tanks constructing. A concept dropped here just to see whether that 12 o'clock base was in construction or not. But Lancer should be able to get that up without too much trouble. Is still sitting on a very light gateway count in the space of this, but part of it is because of that earlier dropship play. Kik0 really wasn't in a position with a hefty siege tank count to be able to punish the lighter troop counting. But anyway, siege tank taking a shot. Okay, taking a shot at the eggs. I'm like, what are they shooting at right this second? Is Lancer going to be greedy now and go for a 4th? If he goes for a 4th, Kik0 would be, and Kik0 spots it, he would be in a position to go ahead and maybe get aggressive off the 3rd base, which is a little bit out of position, it seems like, right? I think it can go a little further north, yeah? No probes transferring, by the way. Lancer playing a little bit off this game altogether. Dropship is exiting to the south. Might want to target the north. Lancer's already got Dragoons, being very, very careful with a lot of this. He does have that probe staged out here to the 3 o'clock. This is with only a 10 supply lead, by the way. He's actually even on troops. And this is kind of dangerous because usually Terran, yes, goes for this base. But if he went for that 3 o'clock base, okay, it looks like with some comm sets getting dropped, is pulling away from that. Instead, going to go for... Still, going for a 4th at this position feels a little bit risky. We do have the Reaver and 2 Zealots now making the way up. Kik0 a little bit slow on... So he has an opportunity to grab a 3rd, but a little bit slow in doing so. It looks like instead going up to 6 factories. Never mind. Is he just going to go for an assault? If he does so, I think he might be in a pretty good position to do so. A lot depends on what this Reaver and Zealot accomplish momentarily, and we got a counter drop making its way up here. They are gonna land. The mines... Okay, 2 mines land, unfortunately, and gonna scoop back up, but very nicely microed against and cleared. Probe just stealing some minerals. Greedily. Looks like we had a pause in the space of it. Bob's Guns! Good advertising right there. Is this entire thing Bob's Guns, and this is the minerals they stored on the ceiling, and then players come in and just end up stealing the minerals? Anyway, +1 weapons is there. If Kik0 was going to push, I would expect him to be doing so right this second. But being that he is hesitating right at this moment, I think he... Nope, never mind. Now is he going? Dragoons walking up to go ahead and clear up what potentially could be the 4th. Now Kik0 on the move. Just a little bit delayed. Reaver could provide some solid support in the midst of this, and this is really good actually. Kik0 has that +1 weapons, although it is against +1 weapons opposite side. Oh, what a huge mine, and the Reaver piling in the midst of this. I don't think Reaver got the shot off, but this is still high ground to low ground attack. Lancer engaging, getting a huge mine drag and crushing that attack. That was about as beautiful a Protoss engagement as you're gonna see. Holy cow. That was brutal. Zealot leg speed, by the way, not that far from finishing, which is really gonna blunt the effectiveness of this attack potentially. And Kik0 also having to move somewhat slower. Lancer just needs to slow this down a little bit longer. Yeah, comset to see what's up there. We are at a higher gateway count. Templar Archives also dropping. The Vultures sneaking in to try to push this back a little bit. And I'm wondering if Kik0 now sitting on these... I gotta presume he's still gonna push. He's got that 6 factory count, is pretty hefty. Is floating forward, but right now he's acting like, okay, I'm just gonna take this 3 o'clock and that's gonna be my 3rd base, is almost the picture that he's trying to paint right here. I can't imagine that LancerX is just gonna let him... I don't know, we'll see what happens. Ignoring this 1 Dragoon and what is the more typical 3rd base for Terran, by the way. Now that he's rescooped, he's still in a pretty good supply position as far as a turnaround. +1 armor almost finished as well here for Kik0. Although +1 armor almost complete for LancerX on the opposite edge. The troop count, okay, now Lancer has surged a little bit further ahead in the troop count. He's got some good zealots. He also has that shuttle. And if Kik0 was planning on just going for 6 factory staging pushes, he's being very, 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 very slow about it. Very, very overly cautious, overly, I would say. The Dragoon walking forward just to kind of check what's going on out on the front. 4th base getting dropped by Lancer in the space of this, by the way. So I think he definitely believes the tale that Kiko's tossing that, okay, this is going to be the 3rd base. And honestly, I'm believing it right now the second as well, considering that it's just turrets getting dropped up here on the high ground. And a very wide tank spread and just a grouping of turrets. Here comes Lancer, able to get Zealots on that back line. So an okay amount of splash right there. Looks like he's run out of Zealots for the initial portion of this. Wow, that 1 Zealot able to walk in and get a few additional kills though. But Lancer able to peel back a good portion of that army, now going to retreat. SCV's diving in to go ahead and repair what's happened. And it looks like Kik0 is in fact opting to grab this 3rd. This is, I'm going to say this is somewhat unusual for certain, because this is much more typical, particularly in general. But I guess Kik0 wanting to try to aggress against his opponent and make... and basically look for opportunities to grab that gap, because that does shut down this 4th base. So effectively grab his 3rd and play aggressively against Lancer's 4th. making it 4-3. What Lancer can do is he might expand to upper left. We have that starport that could maybe shut that down. We also have a vulture on the low ground in the space of this. Lancer again with the 20 supply he's looking for, starting to end around that army. This is the other problem with grabbing this third at this position, is just a long way away from your natural expansion. And Protoss, yeah, they can go down that mid lane and start threatening. I think Lancer, yeah, looking to attack off reinforcements, maybe wants to poke. Double Reavers shutting down that 3 o'clock base, by the way. These Reavers are, I should say, these siege tanks, by the way, if the Reaver manages to get there, could create a lot of problems. Reaver repositioning, scooting, able to get the drop, able to clear out the Vulture and some mines and scoot back up. Still just being annoying and creating a nice delay of time. Looks like it's going to exit out. No fourth base. So the fourth base, actually, I take it back. The fourth base sitting here for LancerX. But because of the aggression earlier, nice mine right there, Lancer not feeling confident in mining that base. He has surged ahead in supply, however. He does have 2 Reavers, and he's got a lot of High Templar in his composition as well. Also, +2 weapons is not here for Kik0. The 2 siege tanks that were threatening that base going to go ahead and get cleaned up. Mines getting dragged on that forward edge, and now Kik0 just has 2 siege tanks on the high ground while his SCVs were in transfer. High Templar could Psystorm SCVs or Psystorm siege tanks here from the high ground, and getting a little bit of column A, not much of column B, however. The Dragoons starting to press the Vulture line back. There's still Reavers to do this, and these Zealots are going to be able to walk right on top of them. Might even get a Mind Drag if they're lucky. Not able to get the Mind Drag, but able to, yeah, just basically skip, hop, and jump. Blades extended on top of that siege tank line. Another High Templar gets wiped out as it's making its way across. Kik0 abandoning that 3 o'clock. Is he just going to move it now to what is the more typical third base is the question. Looks like some Zealots wandered up and cleared some mines. So Lancer in a pretty solid situation. By the way, the control tower has redropped here top left. Is now effectively fully mining at that 4th. So up the bases. Main is mined out, by the way. Command center is actually being built on site here for Kik0 rather than floated across. So maybe still wants to grab that 3 o'clock. Main is mined out for LancerX as well, by the way. He is wandering some units out to go ahead and claim this upper left. It looks like Kik0 might, yeah, isn't going to be able to stop the Nexus from constructing, but is going to be able to get the probe. Well, is he going to get the probe? Is able to get the probe, which is going to slow down the rest of this. You're not going to see the pylon wall or mines in position. Another dropship has been built. Not sure what role it can play at this stage, honestly. I guess it could drop towards the main. Can at least provide some forward scouting. Command center floating back. Now for Kik0, I wonder if he forgot about it or just lost track of it. Is he just going to go for the 6? Might just go for the 6 o'clock base, although at 113 supply versus 157, this is a very light complement. Oh, the dropship. It's going to see that army making its way that direction. This is a very light complement to try to push towards that 6 o'clock base. Dragoons are actually pushing in and starting to threaten the corner. It looks like Reaver Shuttle able to get through. A few SCVs losing their lives. Looks like that Reaver is cleaned up, but the Dragoon's still able to get, still able to get some damage done. Group repair on 1 siege tank, group repair on a 2nd siege tank. It's not going to be sufficient. And now Kik0 at risk of losing 2 command centers for 1, but actually Lancer, rather than focus firing the command center, just walking through and wiping out the rest of the siege tank line. I think this might be game right here. Kik0 down to 69 nice supply. Unfortunately, not nice for him as things stand. Comps adding just in case there was a Dark Templar there, potentially. Maybe a panic comsat? Not sure. Maybe he was meant to rally instead. SCVs giving the Dragoons some additional kills, but vengeance for his brother right there. We do have a science vessel that's been produced. But Lancer now able to grab yet another base, so he's mining at a healthy 55 probes across 4 bases, getting the gas planted across. In the meantime, Kik0's natural expansion is expended, so this is his sole base. He's got some Reaver Zealots and High Templar waiting on the high ground, blockading that 3rd. He might be able to extend a little bit and grab that 6th, but he doesn't have Siege Tanks, Mines, or Vultures to defend it, so I think he's just hoping that Lancer doesn't peek down that direction. And unfortunately for him, there is an Arbiter that looks like it is very, very peaky out in this space. I think it looked like Stasis was upgrading, but got canceled there by Lancer for some reason, unless I just missed it and it finished, in fact. Yeah, Command Center's just hovering there. This is a hopeful hovering Command Center. It really wants to start mining here at the 6 o'clock. Another dropship produced. But Lancer is going to peek down here. That should be the end of Kik0's aspirations to grab this 6 o'clock base, and he's going to GG. That's exited right there. Lancer takes the series 2-0 over Kik0. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for listening.